From the hollers and hills of West Virginia, it's Heavenly Hills Homestead with another episode. Stay tuned. Okay guys, so we got it all done up. We're gonna run these vines, these secondaries on this side, back up and through. You cross over the main, okay? We're burying them all the way up to this point. Then we're gonna throw them, curve them back around, bury them on the way back, go over the main, keep going. Here's our pumpkin right here. Hopefully that'll continue to grow up into there somewhere. And that's where we'll stop it at, and then take this main vine, curve it down that way, and then up and through. We'll see how it goes. So there's the 1240 Hodge. Gotta get in here and give it some spray and stuff tonight. We'll see about transplanting some of these sunflowers tonight as well. But let's go back here and talk about the subject of the day: how to grow a big old tomato. Ain't it pretty in here? Pretty. Tell you what, the man upstairs has done me good. He's done me good. He's really helped me out in here. I tell you, it's something when you come in your garden and it's beautiful like this. It's something. But let's talk about these. Ooh, it's hot in here too. This black has got it hot. No, I've not put up the rest of my fencing. I need to, but I just ain't done it. Like I said yesterday, my buddy come over and we sat around, talked, and flew the drone, and that's all we done. So, you want to know how to grow big old tomatoes. Okay, you want tomatoes with big old blooms on them like that right there, huh? Is that what you're looking for? Or a tomato bush that puts out, I don't know how many blooms is here, probably 50 on that head. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, and then however many's in that mega bloom there, be probably about 60 or 70. What do you think? That mega bloom's more than 5. I know that. It's probably 60 to 70 blooms on the head of that tomato there. And you want to know how to grow them like that, right? Well, it's easy, but it's not. So let's talk about this. See, you got your mega blooms that look like these. right here, right? Just peel that off there. There's that's 2 tomatoes. It's gonna end up making 1, right there, right? And you say, well, I can do that, but how do you get them ones like you got over there? That behemoth. See, that's a mega bloom right there all by itself. That's just one big mega bloom with 1 tomato. And if you look through here, every plant has at least 1 mega bloom, if not more. Okay? And some of it has to do with, look at this one. Would you look at that one? Looky there, looky there, looky there. That's about 4 or 5 in that one. Some of it has to do with genetics. Okay, it does. I'm not gonna lie. Some of it has to do with genetics. Some of it has to do with just right down luck, okay? But a lot of it has to do with how and what you feed them. And when I feed my tomatoes, I know phosphorus brings bloom. Lots of phosphorus brings big blooms, okay? So when these plants get in the ground, look at that one. See this one? Now that is a worm, okay? I want you to look at that thing. Can you see it there? It's a little one and then a great big one. That's a caterpillar. Look how many tomatoes in that to make that. How many do you think was in that to make that tomato? A lot. So, let's see. That's probably 3 or 4 right there. So, like I was saying, I know it takes a lot of phosphorus to produce a big bud on the tomato. A big bloom, rather. So I feed them a lot of phosphorus. Lots of phosphorus equals lots of big blooms. Okay, and yeah, I gotta get these stood up. But you'll also be able to notice, look how big that stalk is. You see how big that is? Big old stalk. Well, in order to get a big stalk, have a good strong plant, and lots of roots, you need the phosphorus as well. So, what I feed them is calcium nitrate, okay? And then I give them whatever is available that has like between a 12 and an 18 nitrogen and a 20 to 48, maybe a 52 phosphorus, okay? And I put that in the ground at time of planting. I also give them mycorrhizae. Now, these plants had 0 mycorrhizae in the hole back here. None of these plants back here had any mycorrhizae, okay? All of these plants had mycorrhizae. All of the plants over there, all the peppers and the huckleberries, all these squashes, okay? Everything but this row of tomatoes had mycorrhizae. All right, and then they all had their equal and own amounts of fertilizer given to them. Okay. Now, like I said, for tomatoes, I give them at the time of planting mycorrhizae. It's a form of bacteria and fungi that is good for plants. Okay, and what it does is it helps break down stuff at the roots of a plant, okay, and helps the uptake of the nutrients for that plant. Now it gets a whole lot more complex than just that. That's just a simple version of how it works, okay? It does this stuff on a micro level, okay? And it's actual live bacteria and fungi that is good for plants, that lives at the base of the plants, all right? And it breaks stuff down on a like a cellular level almost, you know, and it helps these plants roots. It makes good, healthy roots, big root, you know, just makes them expand the roots better. It helps the uptake of water and the nutrients. It breaks down those nutrients into the sugars that the plant needs. I mean, there's so much that mycorrhiza does, okay? That's why I give it to all my tomatoes. I give it to all these plants in here. I give it to the pumpkins and everything. Mycorrhiza helps, all right? What else? The calcium nitrate. I give them calcium nitrate. Tomatoes like calcium, okay? They like calcium and they like magnesium, okay? Everybody says, well, I grew them in, I use that Epsom salt, and that Epsom salt works great. Do you know why Epsom salt worked good? Let me tell you why it worked good. Because you had low magnesium in your soil. If you got low mag in your soil, of course Epsom salt's going to work, because the tomatoes need it. It's sulfur and it's magnesium. So of course, if you're lacking in those things, yeah, your tomato plants aren't going to hurt. And when you give them the Epsom salt, yeah, they're going to poof, you know, grow like crazy. All right. But if you're not lacking, okay, that's the thing you need to think about. If you're not lacking in your soil for magnesium, or you're not lacking for sulfur, okay, or you're high in one or the other, okay, and then you start pounding Epsom salt to it every time you water, well, there's going to be a bit of a problem. You ever heard too much of a good thing is a bad thing? Well, that's very true with all plants. Too much of anything is a bad thing. Too much of a good thing of anything is a bad thing for plants. And what happens is you start getting blockages. If you have too much nitrogen, you get a nitrogen block. And plants don't want to grow tall. They don't want to grow their leaves out that anymore. They don't want, you know, so many things that they just quit doing because they got a nitrogen block. They can get a phosphorus block. They can get a potassium block. They can get, you know, like I said, a magnesium block, or, you know, all kinds of things. And they all do different things to cause that block, to cause that uptake to hurt the plant, okay? Like, you know, what they'll do is they'll affect the uptake of another thing that the plant needs, okay? So, like, and I can't really think of it off the top of my head, but say you got a nitrogen block, okay? Well, that might be hurting, you know, your water uptake. Okay, you might not be able to uptake enough water or something like that, okay? I don't know that it is. You'd have to look up, you know, if you have a block of some sort, you'd have to, or you got too much of something in your soil, you'd have to look it up, what's the effects of it, because like I said, there's so many I can't tell you, but I'm just giving you a suggestion of what could happen. And like if you got a magnesium block, well, that could hurt you from being able to uptake potassium and maybe phosphorus or something like that, okay? And like, again, I don't know that's what that causes specifically, but I do know it can hurt you. So what you need to do is you need to balance out how much you do and when you do it, okay? Because it really is it's a game that you got to play. Now, I will give these plants starting in July. You know, I'll start looking at them and stuff, and I'll start giving them some Epsom salt. But let me tell you something. Epsom salt did not fix my calcium deficiency, because Epsom salt don't have any calcium in it. So therefore, if I got blossom end rot and I gave them, and I gave my plants, you know, magnesium or Epsom salt, which is magnesium and sulfur, if I gave them Epsom salt to fix my blossom end rot, I didn't really fix blossom end rot, because I've got a calcium deficiency, okay? So if you got calcium deficiency, you give them calcium nitrate, and that will help your blossom end rot, not the Epsom salt. Now, maybe you've used it and it worked, okay? And you say, well, Ryan, you're lying to me. I've used it and it took care of my blossom end rot. Well, maybe, just maybe, you had a deficiency in that soil, that's linked to calcium uptake. So you put the magnesium and sulfur in there, and because you did that, it helped your calcium uptake, which was in your soil already, and then that helped the blossom end rot, okay? But you didn't fix it just by the Epsom salt, because if you were still lacking in calcium in your soil, then you would still have the same problem when you use the Epsom salt. Nothing would have changed. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Anyhow, you want to watch. The reason why I'm on this right now is because you want to watch what you put in the ground. Epsom salt is salt. Salt is bad for the plants. If you get too much salt in your soil, it's bad for plants, okay? And I'm just now learning all this stuff, like last year, okay? So what you want to do is you can use 20-20-20. 20-20-20 is a magical thing. You can throw 20-20-20 in something and woof, it's like, wow. You come out there 2-3 days later and you're like, man, look at all that, man. It's great, it's big, it's wonderful, it's awesome. You pound 20-20-20 along with calcium nitrate, and them plants get huge, they get big, they got tomatoes on them, look like daggone bowling balls, and you're all happy and tickled and pink, and then all of a sudden, August comes around and your plants just start to wither and die. No more tomatoes. You could have grown tomatoes till October, but no more, okay? Your big one that was on the vine, well, he done quit growing. He had another week or two to grow, okay? What happened? Too much salt. Too much salt in your soil is a bad thing. So like I was saying, you got to have the proper amount of fertilizers, and you got to have them at the right time, okay? And the right kind. Once again, I feed these really good in phosphorus and nitrogen to get them started, especially calcium nitrate. And then as the season progresses, so starting in July, I'll start giving these guys potassium, okay, which will aid in the fruit production, okay? So as phosphorus aids in your blooming and your rooting, okay? So nitrogen aids in your foliage growth and in your plant growth, okay? So you need that. Calcium nitrate is a way to get calcium and nitrogen at the same time. Then what I do is I give them a fertilizer high in phosphorus so I can produce as many blooms as possible. And I try to give them something that will continue to feed them. So I also put bone meal in here. Blood meal is a good source of nitrogen. Bone meal is a good source of phosphorus, okay? And you're going to want both of them. And you're going to apply those right down in the hole whenever you plant your tomatoes, right there with your calcium nitrate and your mycorrhizae, okay? So then, as these plants are growing, okay, they're going to run out of the calcium nitrate. Give them more calcium nitrate. It ain't going to hurt them none. The phosphorus, being bone meal, will be broken up slowly, okay? But even though it's broken up slowly, they're going to need extra. So find a fertilizer that is a fast release, okay, of phosphorus as well, okay, and give it to them. And that will give you maximum production of blooms, and you'll get bloom all through the season, okay? You won't just bloom all at once and then start blooming very slowly, okay? You'll have big blooms all through the season, and you'll be growing mega blooms pretty much all season, all right? Then what you're going to want to do is, like I said, about July, once you start getting tomatoes on your vines and they start producing more tomatoes, okay? Like you got a you got a vine and you've got 5 or 6 tomatoes on that plant, okay? Or more, because I can get a whole lot more than just 5 or 6. But you get 5 or 6 or more tomatoes on your plant, start giving them that potassium supplement, all right? And then you get that in many different forms. You can do it a 0060, a 0050. The 0060, again, it's got a lot of salt content in it. So maybe don't give them the salt content, okay? Stuff with high salt content. If you do give it to them, don't give it to them as much, because you want to keep you want to keep the salt content in your soil down as low as possible, okay? Just remember that, all right? That's the whole thing about growing good sized tomatoes, is low salt content in your soil, okay? Salt content, when it's high, it really messes up the uptake of nutrients into your plants, and can mess it up. You know, your blooms, can mess up the way that the tomato forms, you know, and grows and everything. All right, so anyhow, very low on salt, and if you're growing for competition, even more so. Okay, we got our competition plants on the other end of the garden over there, outside of this main garden. The next thing I want to talk to you about is trimming your plants. You can see these, they're all trimmed up, and you're like, well, man, you done hacked off half the plant, dude. No, old dude, listen. As Elmer would say, old dude, look here. I didn't hack away half the plant and hurt it any. I hacked away half of it to keep it healthy, okay? A few days, if you go back a couple videos ago, these tomato plants were looking great one day. The next day I come out here and they all had rot on the bottom of the leaves, literally overnight. And I hacked it all off there. I hadn't got to it. I hadn't had time to get to it this season yet, but this is what I do. I fence them up. I hack off the bottoms. I try to keep soil contact non-existent. Okay, I don't want the leaves contacting the soil. That's how they get infected with viruses, okay, and funguses. So try to limit that. The next thing that I do is for the next reason why I take and hack them off, airflow. Okay, I don't keep them to just one stalk right up the middle. You can see there's a sucker vine, and I got another sucker vine on the other side there. I do let them grow some sucker vines, but I try to keep it to a limit of 3. I think of a pitchfork like this, and I let them grow like that. Main stalk here and 2 suckers here. Let them grow like that, because I do want tomatoes and I want good production, but I also want healthy plants, and I want production all year, and I don't want some kind of disease coming in here and, you know, well, I got 60 tomatoes on that bush, but you know, that one bush ends up getting some kind of disease and takes out my whole tomato patch, and then it works on my daggone peppers, because they're all nightshade. All right, my tomato plants are nightshade, my peppers are nightshade, the huckleberries are nightshade. Okay, if you're growing potatoes, they're nightshade. There's tons of things that are in the nightshade family, and if you're like me and don't have a whole lot of space, you know, to put these things at, you know, tomatoes on one end of the yard in a tomato patch, and then you got a pepper patch on the, you know, 200-300 feet away, and then you got a potato patch another 200-300 foot away from that, and you got a huckleberry patch. You know, if you ain't got the room, you all got to fit this in this. This is a 64 by 32 enclosure, okay, 64 foot long, 32 foot wide, and it's all got to fit in here, guys. Everything has to fit in here, and it has to fit in here in a neat, orderly fashion. It has to be able to circulate the air to keep the disease out. The reason why these got sickly is because there was no way for the air to come through, and at nighttime that heavy dew here in the mountains was falling on my tomatoes, and it was sickening them, okay, because there was no airflow to try to keep them somewhat dry. You're not going to get unless you're growing indoors, dew is going to fall, don't matter where you're at. But when you're in the mountains and you get these high humidity days and these cooler nights, and that humidity drops out of the sky like raindrops falling on your head, okay, these plants are going to get wet, and disease pressure is going to be a thing, okay? And the only way to combat that is to try to give them some sort of relief via spraying them down with some kind of contact spray that helps keep the pressure down off of them and aids in killing the bacteria and the funguses down. Or you got to get in here and you got to weed them, and you got to cut them up, okay, and get them thinned out. Now, as these grow, I'll continue to prune these, okay. I'll continue to prune them, and I'll continue to let them climb up and over these fences and stuff, and on these fences. And some days I'll haul out 3 wheelbarrows full of plant matter that I've cut off these tomato plants, and you'll think, man, you done went in there and gave them a high top, haircut. I'm just helping the plants out, and trust me, I've been very successful in growing tomatoes. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is water. Now, if you've got this stuff laying down, I don't see any reason why you can't overhead water your plants. It's not letting a lot of dirt bounce up and be able to come in contact with the leaves. It's bouncing on the plastic, therefore, there's not a lot of contact being there. You got your leaves cut off, so not a lot of contact there. So I don't see any reason why you can't use a sprinkler system and let it go crazy, okay? But you're going to want to do something. If you don't have that down, you're going to want to water them along the sides. And last year what I done, I had plastic in between the rows to keep the rows clear of weeds, but I still had weeds growing around my plants, so I weeded them. I kept them weeded really good. And then after I weeded them really well, I always had a bottle setting either right beside the plant or in between two plants. I had a water bottle. The water bottle, I kept it, and it was buried about halfway down in the soil, okay? And I had that thing filled with fertilizers. That's how I fed them last year. I put the bottle down in between one or two of them, and I fed them through there. I also watered them through there. I'd go by with the water hose, spray a little water in that cup, fill it up, let it drain down, fill it up, let it drain down, fill it up, let it drain down, however many times until it started to go down slowly, because there was a lot of water in the soil then I knew that my soil was watered well, and I didn't water the whole plant, and I didn't get on the dirt and splash the dirt up and everything else, okay? So maybe use the water bottles. Take a water bottle or milk jug or something of that nature, clean it out real good, cut the bottom off of it, leave the top on it where the drinking spout is, bury it in the ground about halfway deep, okay? And then fill it up. Like I say, you can fill it up with your fertilizers, so when you water, you're also feeding. That would be called spoon feeding, all right? And it's a great way to grow tomatoes, and it's a great way to water them. And you just fill your cup up or whatever you got there, and bottle, and just let the water, like I say, fill it up, let it drain, fill it up, let it drain. And when it starts to drain slowly, that's when you know you got a lot of water in your soil is saturated with water. Like I say, you can do this right here. If you got the plastic down, it's not going to be throwing up a lot of overspray. It ain't going to be bouncing up off of the ground and getting onto your plants. And since I've already sprayed on these plants, you can guarantee that daggone dirt has been sprayed. And since it's such a little area of dirt, that dirt now is probably contaminant free. Whatever was in the dirt is probably dead as well, so it ain't going to hurt it none, okay? So yeah, those are my tips. I know it was kind of long, but those are my tips to growing big, healthy, beautiful tomatoes, okay, that everybody's going to be jealous of. You want to win a fair, okay? You want to go to the fair and win an award or ribbon or whatever, or you just want bragging rights, post it on Facebook or whatever and say, hey, look at this tomato I grew. It's, size of almost the size of a volleyball, okay? And they can get that big, okay, guys? You think about this. There's tomatoes, it's 9-10 pounds that's been grown, all right? I think 11 pound is the world record or something like that. Anyhow, you think about that. That's the size of a volleyball. You want to grow big tomatoes, I'm telling you, use my tips and they'll help you, okay? Now, I'm not going to say you got to get into genetics and everything like that, but you can take a regular old heirloom tomato, all right? Use the tips that I'm giving you, and you can end up with some mega blooms like what's on these plants here, and you can be proud of them, and you can say, hey, look what I've been growing in my garden. All right, guys, those are my tips. I'm going to continue watering my plants. Appreciate you joining us today. I hope that this really helps somebody. Hey, look, there's all kinds of information out there on tomatoes. You can give these guys aspirin, and the aspirin will help. It acts like it's silica acid to the plant, and that ends up helping the plant, encouraging the plant to put up its defense system, okay? It'll think that it's being attacked. You spray this with aspirin water, and the plant thinks that it's being attacked by some kind of virus, and it will kick this thing into overdrive. You can use that right now on these plants, and be able to get these plants' immune system kicked into overdrive already. That way, when the disease pressure does come, they've already got their disease defense mechanisms in gear, ready to go, and have already been fighting the disease before they ever get the disease. That's just another quick tip to give y'all. So much out there on these tomatoes. I can't fit it all into one video. If I did, I'd be here all day. Already got long-winded. But look, guys, If you got any questions, comments, concerns, okay, you got a better way to grow them, I want to hear about it. All right, guys, I like learning as well as teaching. Get on here, let's get involved. Let's get the kids out here in the garden, okay? This right here, I'm gonna grow all this, and as long as Jaden helps, he gets to sell it. Whatever comes out of this garden that's extra, he gets to set up here in front of the house and sell it to his heart's content. Okay, guys, and that's helping him learn lots of things on lots of levels. So get the kids out here, get them involved, let them learn how to grow this stuff. My corn is already up to my stomach, guys. Let me take you up here and show you real quick. These are my competition watermelons. They're trying to kick off and go. Need to give them some more water more frequently. The cantaloupes are doing good. Cantaloupes up there. These are regular cantaloupes here. They're looking crazy. I got my butternut squash, the world record from Chris Brown, 55.5 pounds. They're growing right there. More pumpkins here. Pumpkin, Cushaw, pumpkin. You know, I mean, we're just loaded for bear. That right there is another French cantaloupe. These are all peppers. I mean, we're blessed, boys and girls. I'm telling you what, look at this. These are cucumbers. All of it's getting bloom on it. I'm super happy. Here comes the water. Let's see if we can run by here without getting sprayed. Choo choo. Look at all that, man. Good gracious. Ain't that crazy? Let's get over here. Woo. Didn't get wet. All right, green beans. Got 3 different kinds of green beans. Look at this corn. Guys and gals, look at that. That corn is up to my belly. All right, let's get out of here. Let it finish doing this thing. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. We appreciate you, and we'll see you tomorrow right here, the Hollers and Hills of West Virginia.
Don't forget to smash that like button. Hit that notification bell. Don't forget to share.
Thank you, good sir.
You're welcome. And subscribe.